Well, we've moved into pure synthesis even more than in previous series. Series 2, for example, had quite a lot of low, throbbing, slow bass things to suggest tension or fear or whatever. But in this one, there's low synthesis, there's lots of interesting textures in the middle area of the sound spectrum, and some interesting high fizzing sounds as well. And that is sort of inextricably mixed up with found sounds which are not synthetic at all. For example, the use of the Hammond. We've got a lovely C3, Hammond C3, that sits in the studio waiting patiently to be switched on at any time. And we had some great experiments finding sounds that are not really typical of what you'd expect a Hammond to do.
I think perhaps the sound world differs this series from Hinterland in the past in that it has had the opportunity to explore a more digital soundscape than previously we'd been able to. It's been a bit of a natural evolution. It's been a direction that I feel like is welcome and has really had a positive effect on the score for sure.
So when we come to selecting our sounds for each episode, we often look at instruments and various objects that could make interesting sounds around the studio. One of which for the new series was a large metal bowl belonging to John, and we hit that with sticks, with mallets, and we bowed it with a violin bow, and we tried to get as much sound out of it as possible and recorded all of this and used that in different ways. We sometimes used it as a texture, sometimes used it as an impulse response in order to give a different colour to like a piano or to a violin or something. And often these sounds tend to have a large impact on the sound of an individual episode.
By this point in creating the music for Hinterland, I feel as though we've really streamlined the way in which we produce the music. We're always looking for different techniques, different technologies that can help us to improve the way that the music sounds. But at this point I feel as though we really understand the kind of sound world that we want to create, and we're able to use the technology in a really creative way to achieve those sounds.
When approaching each episode, we tend to start with a template project, which can be anything from 10 minutes to half an hour or something. And within that project, we develop new thematic material unique to that episode, and we record new instruments and new ideas around that, and inject individuality and colour for each episode into each of these template projects.
In this series we definitely have musical extremes. In, for instance, the 12th episode, I believe it is, there are many more mechanical and digital sounds forming the basis and forefront of the musical score, which is certainly a divergence from our usual style.
The collaborative nature of the work that we do at John Hardy Music is probably one of the nicest parts of working here. So we are essentially working with people that are really, really close friends, and that's such a kind of wonderful experience. It's also really helpful in terms of the creative process, because it means that we're not just going on one person's opinion, but there's four of us to kind of combine our ideas, and there's always someone there to get their opinion and to ask for their help. You know, if you're struggling with some kind of musical idea. So in that sense, I think that the way that we work as a team really helps to improve the music and make it even better.
It's difficult to say whether we have a relationship at John Hardy Music which is unique. Certainly it feels that way when we talk to other people. We're very strongly collaborative. There are four of us actively composing and writing here, and that presents wonderful opportunities and also opportunities for disagreement, and that creates a fantastic learning environment in which we can all grow in ways that we couldn't alone.
The template is usually based around ideas and comments that the directors made during briefing meetings prior to our work on the episode, and we discuss the use of themes, how the music will function within an episode, and how the music will be unique to the characters and the story of each individual episode.
Well, there's this very rare, possibly now died out form of chanting, singing, associated with the chapel movement of the far southwest of Wales, called Cani'r Pwnc. And we were able to identify a particular piece of biblical text, work out the way that the chant works, and get our little choir of singers together and reproduce the way that Cani'r Pwnc used to be sung, and re-recorded in the studio here. That is actually all reproduced in the style of genuine Cani'r Pwnc, because the original material is not available.
In this series, we've carried on the tradition of using both found sound and extended technique in the score. In terms of found sound, that meant we incorporated woodland sound that we recorded in a forest, as well as the sound of a mining shaft. All of this is used in the kind of sound design aspects of the score. We also use extended instrumental techniques, such as the use of harmonics on the clarinet. We also used extended technique with the violin in terms of both the playing and also the way in which we actually mic'd the instrument.
What excites me about this series is that we've had many musical opportunities that we haven't had before. May that be because of the way it's been edited or directed or characterised, or just due to the storyline changes, and that everything is striving toward a focal point, perhaps in a way that it hasn't quite done before in the previous series. That has allowed us in a very real way to have themes which dip in and out through the entire series in a, not that they weren't meaningful before, but in a more focused manner. That's very exciting, because we can help to make potentially minor moments in the drama seem a lot bigger than they are. That's very nice.
In this series, we've really had the opportunity to not only explore organic sounds and synthesized sounds, but we've also had the opportunity to explore space, to work with different kinds of reverbs, and also to explore the kind of depth of sound and stereo placement. So we have detailed sounds at the forefront, so they're really kind of crisp and almost kind of quite bare and without reverb, and then we have sounds that are more distant. In that sense, we're really able to emphasise the character development and the narrative development through the way in which we not only compose the music in a linear sense, but also in the depth of the music and the way that we produce it.
Matthias himself, is he even to be trusted now? And you get this thing where it shifts from everything in the series was seen through his eyes. He was always the person who was in front, leading the questioning and having the theories and the bright ideas perhaps before anybody else. And in this series, suddenly there's a key moment where he doesn't know as much as the audience knows. It's very exciting. And the music is therefore invited to suggest these threats and the shifting sands, and be sort of slightly epic and schematic in the background, as well as at the same time illustrating and supporting the main story of each week.